Shalom! Hebrew is one of the most ancient languages on earth, still in active use today. Modern Hebrew is the state language of Israel, which is based on Biblical Hebrew, the language of the Tanakh. Tanakh is an acronym standing for Torah, teaching, Nevi'im, prophets, and Ketuvim, writings. Tanakh. The Tanakh corresponds to most of the Old Testament. But why study this ancient language at all? And can you learn to speak it? My name is Luke, and this is polýMATHY. Biblical Hebrew, also called Classical Hebrew, is the foundation of the modern Hebrew spoken in Israel today. Apparently, though, modern Hebrew has changed with respect to Biblical Hebrew to such a degree that modern Hebrew speakers cannot comprehend the ancient texts without great difficulty. But you don't have to take my word for it.
At this point in history, someone familiar only with Biblical Hebrew would not be able to communicate very well with contemporary native speakers. At the same time, a modern Hebrew speaker cannot easily read the Bible.
Hebrew is related to other Semitic languages like Arabic, Aramaic, Phoenician, and Akkadian. Ancient Hebrew is part of the Northwest Semitic languages and developed during the latter half of the 2nd millennium BC in an area known as Canaan, or Canaan, which is fun to say, between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. Thus, Hebrew is classified as a Canaanite language, along with Phoenician, which also emerged from this area. And a really cool part for me as an enthusiast of ancient Roman history is that, apparently, Hebrew was mutually intelligible with the Punic language, the version of Phoenician spoken in Carthage, the great rival of Rome. So that gives me an added incentive to learn Hebrew, since I think it might help me imagine the language of the great General Hannibal and the legendary Queen Dido. But the best reason to learn Biblical Hebrew is, of course, to be able to read the language of the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh, and all other classical Hebrew texts. Familiarity of Biblical Hebrew can therefore be a profoundly valuable experience, whether you want to explore religion more deeply through Scripture, or just learn to appreciate one of the most influential pieces of literature in human history. And I'm struck by just how old this language is. While Classical Hebrew is centered around the 10th century BC, Classical Greek doesn't come about until 500 years later, and Classical Latin emerges a whole 1,000 years, a millennium after the first flourishing of Classical Hebrew. Now, I'm no expert in Hebrew studies, but you know who is? Beth and Andrew from Aleph with Beth. Aleph with Beth is a true treasure of YouTube. A wonderful husband and wife team, Beth and Andrew's Biblical Hebrew course is the gold standard of the comprehensible input theory of second language acquisition. What's comprehensible input? I'm glad you asked. Comprehensible input theory demonstrates that students can learn new information about a foreign language extremely well when given ample contextual clues, visual stimuli, and lots of auditory input.
איה הכבש. טוב.
Without the need for English or any other spoken or written language as a medium. Children learn their first language in a similar way. Comprehensible input, or CI, is best utilized in graded language learning programs, where new vocabulary and grammar are presented within the context of previously learned information, repeated in multiple situations, and used as the foundation of further lessons. CI is usually contrasted with grammar translation methods of learning languages. With CI, students are presented with a manageable amount of new information that doesn't overwhelm them. And this not only increases their enjoyment of the second language acquisition experience profoundly, but also sets the groundwork for more permanent memories, and often leads to a faster rate of language acquisition and ultimately to more rapid mastery. Video series that use comprehensible input or similar target language-only instruction methods include French in Action from the late 1980s, Destinos for Spanish from the early 1990s. In written form, the wonderful Lingua Latina per se Illustrata series by Hans Orberg, and similar nature method books for English, French, and Italian. I am also currently producing CI series for Latin, as well as Ancient Greek, on my other channel, Scorpio Martianus. Beth and Andrew show us how readily we can learn Biblical Hebrew in Biblical Hebrew, without a word of English or any other language, even from the very first day of instruction. This is CI at its finest. Even if you have never had any interest before in the ancient Hebrew language, you must check out at least Aleph with Beth's first lesson in Biblical Hebrew. It's amazing how much you can learn. Beth and Andrew are truly gifted teachers, and they are a pure joy to watch. You'll laugh with them.
אתה חמור.
לא.
You'll feel scared with them.
אברהם, הנה.
You'll enjoy every moment learning Biblical Hebrew with them. What's so great about CI, and Aleph with Beth in particular, is you'll be able to feel yourself learning new things. It's such a pleasing experience. It's difficult to describe. You just have to try it and see what I mean. So go right now. Watch Lesson 1 in Biblical Hebrew. The link's in the description. And definitely subscribe to their channel, youtube.com/AlephWithBeth. And if you like their Biblical Hebrew lessons, let me know below. And if you have a good time watching Aleph with Beth, be sure to leave a nice comment on their videos as well. Toda rabba. Shalom.